very difficult for somebody going into the criminal justice system to figure out a pathway that will help them get the best possible outcome at the earliest possible time. My name is Michael Santos, and our entire team at Prison Professors really devotes ourselves to trying to help people understand how to self-advocate, because once they go into the system, they go through various stages, including this period where they got to deal with how they're going to respond to a criminal charge, then a pre-sentence investigation report if they've been convicted, then a sentencing hearing, then they're in prison, then they transition to supervised release. And they really need an advocacy strategy for every stage in the journey. But what is an effective advocacy strategy? What is an effective advocacy campaign? That's what we wrote about this morning on today's blog. And you could visit this blog if you haven't done so before. Visit us at prisonprofessors.com and just click on the top menu bar and you will see the blog and you will see this article, What is Effective Advocacy? It also shows up in our library of content because we're always striving to help people understand. We also strive to provide this information to people who are currently serving time inside of jails and prisons. And that's one of the reasons that I also read the articles so that they can access the information wherever they get their content, whether it's on iTunes or YouTube or anywhere else. If they're watching this outside, we do hope that you will subscribe to our program. But if you are inside, we definitely want you to understand what is effective advocacy. So I'm going to go ahead and start reading now with hopes that it will help you architect a plan to get yourself the best possible outcome. And so we title this one, What is Effective Advocacy for Justice Impacted People? People in prison should have examples of effective advocacy. That way, they can craft a strategy leading to better outcomes. I'd like to share what I learned about advocating from inside a federal prison and from outside. In truth, effective advocacy requires a long-tail process, patience, and tolerance for disappointment. To advocate effectively, a person needs perspective as well as both depth and breadth of experience. Ultimately, it is similar to building a business or solving any problem. First, we need to define success as the best possible outcome. Second, we must create a systemic plan using all available resources and mechanisms. Third, we need to put priorities in place. And fourth, we need to execute our plan, making daily progress along the way. Now, who am I to offer this guidance? For those who don't know, my name is Michael Santos. After concluding a 26-year odyssey that carried me through federal prisons of every security level, I began building a career to influence better outcomes for all justice-impacted people. I finished my obligation to the Bureau of Prisons in August 2013 and received early termination of supervised release, parole, and special parole. The various books I published show the strategies that worked for me. I hope that members of our community will see that I have never asked anyone to do anything I didn't do while incarcerated. So now I have a subheading here called Lessons from Earning Freedom. If you haven't read Earning Freedom, you will see the strategies that worked at various stages of my journey. I offer many examples that show a long-tail self-advocacy campaign. During my first unit team meeting, administrators told me that they would never authorize me to transfer from a high security prison to a lower security prison. The chapter shows the methodical strategy that allowed me to get the desired outcome. And that strategy did not include any of the following tactics: complaining that it wasn't fair, saying it wasn't my fault, blaming my attorney for the bad decisions that led me into the penitentiary, or filing frivolous paperwork that did not have a chance of succeeding. As shown through the story, I created tools, tactics, and resources that would further a systematic plan to get the outcome I wanted. To improve my chances for success, I had to master the following subjects: the custody and classification policy, understanding of the BOP's regional system, knowledge of stakeholders who could help me influence the system, and persistence. The plan I launched required me to leverage outside resources, including a mentor, a professor, a publisher, a BOP administrator in DC, a regional director, and a warden. An alternative may have been to complain that the system wasn't fair. Many people with whom I served time used that same approach to self-advocacy. they rarely got the results they wanted. We distribute earning freedom to our community because we want people to see the many examples of advocacy in action. It isn't only the strategy. It isn't the only strategy, I should say, but this strategy worked for me while I was in prison, and we're still using it now. And that's what brings me to the Prison Professors Organization. When I got out of prison, I committed to advocating for other justice-impacted people. Simultaneously, I had to earn a living. I went into the prison system at 23 and didn't finish my obligations to the Bureau of Prisons until I was 49. I had to create a systemic plan in the same way that every other person would need to resolve problems. I would use the same lessons I used in prison to build that advocacy strategy. And that strategy required persistence and included many moving parts. To be effective, we would need the following: funding, scale, assets, influence, data, and people. For that reason, we created a consulting business that would offer services to justice-impacted people. The consulting venture would generate financial resources we could use to hire others and to build our advocacy strategy. The advocacy strategy would include building a nonprofit, Prison Professors. One message I consistently give is that through our nonprofit, people can receive everything they need to advocate for themselves without paying a single penny. They simply must do the work, just like we have to do the work. If they want others to work for them, however, they can hire our consulting companies, and I trust that our team will do the best that they possibly can. Now, some members of our team devote their time to providing those one-on-one services through our consulting company for paying customers. Others, including me, devote all time to the nonprofit. The nonprofit has one stated mission: to make an impact on improving outcomes for people in the criminal justice system. Although consumers do not pay for services through our nonprofit, Prison Professors represents an integral part of our strategy. We can accomplish goals with the nonprofit that would not open to us through a for-profit enterprise. For example, a nonprofit allows us to build a voice with the media, hire subject matter experts that would not provide their expertise to a for-profit entity, even though some of those experts charge us more than $500 per hour for their time. Open and nurture relationships with senior leaders in the Bureau of Prisons, U.S. Probation, and even the federal judiciary. Collect data that we can use to bolster arguments for reform. Develop a voice that will prove more influential and bring change to the system. Provide an employment bridge for formerly incarcerated people. Now, what we're doing. As the nonprofit founder, I am enthusiastic about the opportunities that Prison Professors is opening now. In November, I'll visit 4 federal prisons to make presentations. After the federal government passes its budget, I anticipate more opportunities to bring our programs into prisons. We are now working to qualify as a productive activity that will help more people receive time credits that apply to their sentence reductions or earlier transition to home confinement. Each time I present, I will ask people in prison to collaborate in these advocacy efforts. To persuade administrators to open more opportunities for people to earn freedom, we need to show that people inside 1, avoid disciplinary infractions, 2, complete their obligations with FRP, and 3, participate in self-development programs that will lead to success after release. The data we collect will either help or hurt our efforts to advocate for change. Another effective program we're working on includes expanding our relationships with tablet providers. We are pursuing a strategy to open access to our program to more than 500,000 people in state and federal prisons using tablets. Through those efforts, we also anticipate collecting data that will become crucial to our advocacy efforts, making us more effective at getting the results people in prison want. We are building a comprehensive ecosystem for advocacy, and we believe we are stronger when we work together with all justice-impacted people. So how to connect with us? We invite any person in federal prison to receive our general newsletter. They may send an invite to the following address, impact@prisonprofessors.com. Through that general email, we disseminate information we are learning, and we invite people to share what they are seeing. That information can prove helpful in our advocacy efforts to improve outcomes for all justice-impacted people. Those who paid the consulting companies that support our nonprofit have a separate email address reserved for customers that paid for services. What we cannot do, we are not lawyers and we cannot change the past. As an advocacy company, we strive to improve outcomes for all justice-impacted people. Previously, we published and distributed an article called Understanding the Mitigation Arc. In that article, we described the different stages of mitigation or advocacy. Although it is never too early and never too late to work toward a better outcome, we must always work with the situation at hand, or, as I like to say, we must live in the world as it exists. So, what are those different stages? Stage 1, we would have liked to have communicated with people before authorities charged them with a crime because we could have offered an advocacy campaign to help them at that stage, hopefully avoid any type of criminal charges at all. Stage 2, if we didn't connect at stage 1, we would have liked to have communicated to assist with the pre-sentence investigation, to assist with those advocacy preparations. Stage 3, if we didn't connect at stage 2, we'd have liked to have communicated to assist before the sentencing hearing, to assist with advocacy preparations. Stage 4, if we didn't connect at stage 3, we'd have liked to have communicated before surrendering to prison to assist with advocacy preparations. And stage 5, if we didn't connect at stage 4, we would have liked to offer guidance on how to rebuild after release. Now, we understand that people get frustrated with lousy guidance they received from defense attorneys or from the system itself. We cannot change what happened before, nor can we change the system with a simple filing of paperwork. The system is complex. It is a complex, labyrinthine bureaucracy that sometimes fails to act in accordance with what Congress intended. You can see that through many of the advocacy efforts and judicial challenges that take place year after year. But we're striving to improve this system, and we hope that you will be patient with us as we execute the effective advocacy campaigns listed above. One last thought. Our team includes many formerly incarcerated people. They respond to messages we receive. Although we would like to send personal responses to every person that writes, we are a relatively small nonprofit with limited human resources. Our team responds to the customers who paid the consulting company first, as those people paid for services. Those who subscribe to the Impact newsletter may wait longer for responses, but we value every voice as we use those voices in our advocacy campaigns. We hope our community will be patient with our efforts to build solutions for what we consider to be one of the great social injustices of our time, which is the overuse of our criminal justice system and mass incarceration. And we generally believe that. We generally believe that our nation incarcerates far too many people, and those people serve sentences that are far too long. And that's why we're always creating information. And it's the reason that we always ask people, hey, you should make sure that you read this book, Earning Freedom, Conquering a 45-Year Prison Term, because in this book, you are going to see example after example of self-advocacy in action. You could also work through our workbooks here, and there's many of them that you can use as a tool, because you've got to be creating your tools, tactics, and resources to make it through the journey. I can't change where you are in the system or what authorities have accused you with, nor can I tell you what to do with your life. I went through 9,500 days in prison, and through that lengthy journey, I learned many lessons that I strive to pass along to others. Those lessons should help you understand what levers can I pull, what mechanisms can I use to help myself. But it's my belief, as I wrote in the article, that we can all work better if we build a stronger voice and a stronger community. Everything is really about scale in the sense of saying we need to collect data from tens of thousands of people and demonstrate why administrators should create mechanisms that allow more people to transition into society as law-abiding contributing citizens. There's a lot of changes that I consider to be very positive, and I will continue working to open more of those changes. But I can't fix the system with a simple filing of paperwork. Nobody can. This is a massive government agency that many people have said is kind of off the rails, but I'm really optimistic about the changes that I am seeing. Of course, I have a different perspective because I went through 26 years in prison, and I have more patience, more tolerance, more commitment to persistence because I know that it requires a tremendous amount of work, a lot of funding, and a lot of scale to move this ship. But I'm working hard, and I hope that you will work hard if you're inside of a jail or a prison by avoiding disciplinary infractions, participating in self-development programs, participating in the FRP program, or whatever administrators require of you. Because the advocacy is not about complaining, oh, it's not fair, it's not my fault, I shouldn't be here, right? That doesn't move the needle. To move the needle, we've got to think, we've got to plan, we've got to prioritize, and we have to create our tools, tactics, and resources, and we have to execute every single day. I try to lead by example, never asking anybody to do anything that I didn't do and that I'm not still doing today. And I hope you see that through our regular communications that we disseminate through iTunes, through YouTube, through our website at prisonprofessors.com, or anywhere that you get social media. So if you're watching this outside, we do encourage you to subscribe. If you're watching this inside, you can see the effort I am making to get this into as many hands as possible. My name is Michael Santos, and on behalf of Prison Professors, I just want to say we believe in you. Thanks.